Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. This is a historic event because we are streaming on two channels. We're on my channel and we're on the Yale Appliance channel. So if you're watching from either one of these outlets, this is going to be an awesome 45 minutes of kitchen design and appliance chat. We are looking at how kitchens from Houzz.com, the top kitchens. And Steve and I are going to look at these in reference to the design, the layout, the functionality, also the appliances and other things that we're going to chat about. So the reason this is really valuable is because when you're looking online and looking at pictures of kitchens, you kind of get lost in some of the things that you're just looking at these beautiful spaces. So getting a chance for two professionals, and finally dressed professionals at that, to go over these spaces to give some, kind of clue into how these things are put together, and maybe some things that could be improved upon, or maybe they're perfect. We're going to give them a 5-star rating, or a star rating for sure. So Steve, say hi and let's jump into this.
First of all, you look good. You look good in a sport jacket. No, this is going to be a lot of fun. There's a real changing of guard and style, as you guys will see, from what was done 5-10 years ago to what's being done now. Some of it's good, and some of it's likable, and some of it's admirable, and some of it's what's the word, dreadful. So we're going to go through all of that. Take it away.
All right. Well, I made notes, so that's not something I normally do. I'd also like, before we get into this, Steve, just to say thank you to your team, Pat and Shannon and Joe behind the scenes, and maybe there's others. They really pulled this together and made it possible for me and you just to show up and chat with each other. So a huge shout out to them, and for you and your channel and what you're doing, because I get a lot of people who discover me through stuff that we've done online before. So it's a pleasure to do this with you today.
No, it's a pleasure because you know how to put together. You're not a influencer. You're not a designer. You have the nuts and bolts knowledge to put it all together. So let's take a look at this. This is pretty interesting. What do you think?
So I like this kitchen overall. So it's beautiful, and you're going to see a very similar design style as we go through all of these kitchens. This is an L-shaped kitchen, one of the more popular, layout options for a space. Now, I want to just point out something here when you're looking at a wall like this. We're going to look at this range hood wall for now. So if you look at the range hood reveal, you'll notice that it's different on both sides. And oftentimes when you have like a focal point wall, when you have a wow factor type of space, you're looking for symmetry. And when I look at this, I notice right away that the spacing on one side is different than the spacing on the other. And for me, I question that. So then I answer the question of why did they make that design choice? Because there has to be a reason for all these decisions. So you notice that they offset that. They have sconces on both sides. And you'll notice that the cabinets that flank that wall, if it was moved over and there was a sconce there, that door wouldn't open. So the sconces and the range hood placement give it the illusion that there's symmetry there, even though if you just look at the spacing, the negative space alone, you'll see that there's some difference there. So whenever I look at pictures like this, those are the kind of details that I look to just to get an idea of why they made that decision. Why didn't they center it? And is that something that's going to bother me in my own kitchen when I'm designing it? Do I want to see symmetry, or can I make imposed symmetry by adding the sconces and having the spacing around the range? If you just look at the base cabinets, except for the corner, those two base cabinets have pretty similar size landing areas. So overall, I like how they did this, but I think that's the reason why they did it. And otherwise, you're going to have that range, which is beautiful, and I'll let you talk about that in a second, jammed into that corner, and you're not going to have enough spacing around it. So it's a way to get around symmetry, but still making it look very symmetrical.
Well, from an appliance side, you're looking at a Wolf dual fuel with either a grill or griddle in the middle. I think that's one of the best all-around ranges. Again, I would say to somebody, the best range for you depends on how you use it. But that's certainly one of the best ones. I really like the pot fill over it because you look at where the sink is located. The sink is weighted, so you could fill a whole pot without going in your sink, back and forth. I would think that's a Cove or Miele dishwasher on the side, both high end, both wash dry pretty well. My real objection to this kitchen is nothing to do with appliances. It's everything to do with lighting. Now, we used to be in the lighting business for 95 of our 103 years, and the way you look at lighting is what's missing here. I don't like the sconces on either side because let's just say you're frying something up. I think those have the ability, perhaps, to collect maybe some grease, but there's no task lighting in this kitchen. And okay, you could say, well, maybe they put under cabinet lighting in. Okay, that's fine. But really, all you have is decorative. So you have lighting in the middle, and really no lighting other than the lighting you're getting when it's daylight out. But at nighttime, it's going to be a tough kitchen to navigate. Now, if I was to take everybody on this call and say, I'm going to eliminate all your lights, nobody would have a problem. They all have the iPads now. You don't even need them to read anymore, except in your kitchens and bath. You need functional lighting, and that is really what's missing here. There's no recessed, there's no ambient lighting per se, although the flush mounts do provide some of that. I really think that this is lit really poorly. All they need is some recess to make it better. I don't like the sconces next to them, but as far as the appliances are concerned, these are top end appliances. So
yeah, very nice.
What's your rating?
Well, I agree with you on the lighting because you need to have more task lighting, especially at ceiling level. I'm sure that there is under cabinet lighting in this space, which is going to give you great task, for this area. I'm not a huge fan of these lights above the island. The sconces are here nor there for me. They're just purely decorative, in my opinion. Yeah. Any sconce really is. My comment on the sconce is more about the symmetry that it provides for the range hood, but not really like lighting. I do love the symmetry around the window and how they open it up. They didn't bring the cabinetry, which they could have, right up to that window. They actually could have made the window wider, but it's something to consider when you're designing your space that, the window reveal is going to make your kitchen breathe a little bigger and feel a little larger than bringing it really in, close to that window. So whether or not you have the little shelves there or not, that's here nor there. But I do like the fact that they did that. And I see lots of drawers in this kitchen, which is always a thumbs up for me. When you're designing a space and you're unsure what to do with a cabinet, like put a drawer bank in, and that's going to give you the most versatile, overlap of use for any kind of cabinet. And I'll just say something about the island overhang. It looks like it's about 15 inches, which is just on the verge of being uncomfortable. So always be very mindful of the depth of that and where your knees are going to be into the back of this panel, and making sure that it's comfortable when you do it.
Yeah, I thought you would have an issue with open shelving.
Well, in this location where it's an upstand shelf, it's a little different. Definitely more decorative than anything else.
Yeah, well, it's not near the stove. Someone mentioned something about a squared handle. All they were trying to do, I think, is match the oven. But what's next?
Before we do, though, is that a paneled fridge? Obviously, I think it is.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like. Funny, we don't have a picture of it. That looks like a Sub-Zero because of the top bank there. But it could be any. It could be actually. It's a integrated of some sort, which means it doesn't. Difference in an integrated and a counter depth is the integrated fits within the cabinet. The counter depth, you're going to have the door stick out a little bit. So it's definitely some kind of integrated. I can't tell from this picture. So what's the rating on this?
Well, I give this there's one more picture, actually. Just go to the third slide.
Okay.
Let's look at that for a second.
No, I didn't see it. Where's it?
Yeah, again, so it just kind of highlights that. The two cabinets to the left of the range, they're very narrow. I'm sure they're just like a cutlery pullout of some type. So this is what I mean by if you don't have a drawer bank, what cabinet is there should be very intentional and should have a really, really specific purpose. So this would sadden me if this was just a two-door cabinet with a shelf inside. I would hope that there is some kind of pullout system or something that makes that particular cabinet useful. I'll make a note on the flooring, and we're not really getting into a whole lot of flooring in this conversation, but you'll notice it's a herringbone floor. And if you're struggling with figuring out how to lay your floor, like the length of the room or across the kitchen, what's the best way if you have a more square space, a herringbone is really going to open up that space. It still feels cozy, but it's a beautiful way to do a floor if you have a space where you're unsure which way to run it if you're doing like a hardwood. So good on them for figuring that out.
Yeah, that looks nice. Really does.
Awesome. So I rate this a 4.7 stars.
Appliances, it really doesn't get any better than I would imagine it's Sub-Zero and Wolf. I don't see what microwave that is, but microwaves are not the reason I would rate anything. From an appliance standpoint, it's a 5. From a lighting, whew, I would say a 2.
A 2?
A 2, because, you know, you could always strap on like one of those coal miner's hat and get by.
Sure, you can.
And maybe if there's, you know, maybe some of those diode kind of lighting tape underneath the cabinets, it wouldn't be terrible, but still, I think you're gonna have some. It's almost like, what do they call it? The nightclub effect, when you're highlighting objects instead of spaces. So
yeah,
I think overall, I give it probably a 3.8.
Oh wow, I'm generous. Okay. All right, love it. In the chat, put in what you think you'd rate this kitchen as we go along. We're going to rate all of these, so we'd love to hear your ratings as well. Let's jump to the next kitchen. Another L shape and a little more traditional. You know, here you go. This is your classic L shape kitchen. What do I have about this one? Let's see. All right. Okay, so this one's a little different. The island seating is the overhang is just with a box filler instead of the last kitchen we never mentioned, but it had a waterfall edge on the 2.5 waterfall edge on the surface. So there's just different ways to do that overhang, and my favorite is to not have anything on the sides, but just allow the overhang to be its own thing, and maybe brace it with steel brackets or something that's invisible, because you can easily just get your knees banged into that. So if you have island overhang, it's nice just to have a you know, clear and easy passage to get through you know, your legs if you're turning around and whatnot. And from what I can tell, there's like lots of ample drawers in this space, and it seems to have pretty dedicated work zone. So if your cooking zone, your island is unhindered from a sink or a cooktop or anything like the last one as well. And it gives us a really beautiful L-shaped layout. Very, very classic L shape.
Yeah, you want to go back to the last picture? Appliance garage. I have one in the corner of my kitchen. I love it because I can stuff as many accessories in there as I possibly can. I don't like the look of it here, and that's, you know, that's style. Once again, in this kitchen, you have no lighting whatsoever, other than the 3 pendants. Those are 3 visual comfort pendants. Maybe they put it, you know, you have, for people on this, they're doing a kitchen, you have really good LED lighting now is so incredibly inexpensive. To do it is kind of a shame. You know, you start at your sink and you move out 3 to 4 feet. You can put really inexpensive LED tape over your cabinets, have a nice little ambient effect under your island there, under even the toe kicks if you wanted to. It's so inexpensive to do, and you can just wire it to a switch if you don't like it, you turn it off. You have really good night lighting and accent lighting, and that's a real missed opportunity here. At least put some recessed over it. As far as the appliances, again, not everything's going to be a Sub-Zero Wolf kitchen or a Thermador, and we sell a lot of everything. This is a really functional kitchen. I think that's a counter depth, although that sticks out a little far, doesn't it? The fridge. And I think with an island, you need at least a counter depth, because regular refrigerator is going to stick out 34, 35 inches, and you're going to find yourself shimming between that island. It doesn't look like a counter depth, so I'm going to say it's not. So just, if you get an island, get a counter depth. There's 24 plus the door. As far as the rest of the appliances, they look like they match. This is either LG, or I think it's an LG kitchen, which is decent. Hopefully that's an induction. When you're putting a wood hood up, just make sure the wood hood covers roughly 22 to 23 inches. We see a lot of like wood hoods that are very streamlined, but they don't vent. So as far as the appliances and the ventilation, it's fine. As far as the lighting, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I've been out of it for 5 years. Does recessed lighting go out all of a sudden, or?
No. Very important. Lighting is just super important in a kitchen.
Oh, it's so important.
Yeah,
it's so inexpensive to do.
It gets missed.
I'd light my kitchen like a Christmas tree, and just light it to, you know, a bunch of different switches, and you get mood lighting, night lighting, and it costs a fraction of what it did 10 years ago, and with better lighting output too.
Let's do the next one here.
What do you think of this?
Well, let's go to the next slide, and we'll chat about it. I want to see the so, because I know you mentioned about the fridge, and then I seen Jackie made a comment there also. A lot of that's perspective from the visual of the picture, but I do think it's a very good, important point to bring up, is making sure that your clearance is from like the surface, not of your countertop to countertop, but from the fridge door to your countertop. So you really want to make sure that you have ample clearance there. So your point, Steve, about just that countertop is spot on. I probably would have designed. I see some comments about the appliance garage, and that is, that particular one doesn't do it for me, but that is what it is. I probably would have designed the range wall a little differently, and I would have probably blocked off the corner, like I do, and I would have brought that to the right a little bit and just expanded those door widths out a bit. But this is fine. I just whenever I see a door and a drawer underneath, or a drawer front with a door underneath, I always just wonder what is in there that's functional. And in this kitchen with a corner base with a Lazy Susan, I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that in my opinion. So
a couple other things. It's not the same appliance. I think it's an LG fridge and a cafe stove.
Is it? Okay.
That's a cafe, because you see the little copper badge on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
You can do whatever you want to do. And I always tell people that. Buy what you want, especially if you stay longer. But if you break apart the rebate, if you break apart the package, the rebate, the structure of the rebates change. Just know that. Mm-hmm. The one thing I can't get my mind around is rugs in kitchens.
That's a good point.
Functional places. I mean, I don't know how you cook, but I make a chocolate shake in the morning and I clean up after it. But so whatever.
Well, I mean, maybe it was for the picture, but also people like tripping hazards. It's just, it just mixes up the day a little bit. You gotta have a little bit of an adventure. So I think, is there one more picture? I think there is for this one. Yeah.
Barn doors.
Love it. And I love barn doors.
I love barn doors.
People hate them, and I get comments about, how can you like barn doors? I like barn doors. I don't know why. I have no problem with them. So what's not to like about a barn door?
I really like barn doors. One of our guys who designs the kitchens, I mean, the layouts of the showrooms, Dennis McDonald, he's a barn door guy, man. I mean,
right.
In our old warehouse, we had like 2 barn doors in a warehouse. I'm like, why are you putting barn doors in a warehouse? Just because, I guess, but it does look good.
Why not?
I think it's different. It's a nice little design detail.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just popular to hate them, but I certainly don't. I actually like them. I think there's one more slide for this one. I'd like to just point out too, there's lots of drawers on that island, which is good. I want to bring up a point here about the seating in the island. We're going to see a lot of seating in islands as we go through these kitchens. And I've said this before, but you don't need to have seating in your island just because you think you're supposed to. There's seating right there at that table. It might be fine. You might not need seating in that island. You could do extra storage space on the back, and that island could just be a place that you travel around. You're serving food. People can kind of walk around and get the stuff they need. So, it's fine if they decided this homeowner wanted to have seating for a particular purpose. But a lot of times when I ask homeowners, do you ever sit there? The answer is not really. We don't really ever use it, but it seems just to be the thing that you're supposed to do. And, that's fine. You can have it there, but don't think you need to in order for that kitchen to be functional. A lot of times that seating's not comfortable anyways. And so, take it or leave it, but don't think you have to be, pigeonholed into having seating in an island, just for your kitchen to be, trendy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great piece of advice you gave in the last webinar, is be careful how you measure the seats to the island. Mine's like almost non-functional, because my seats are way too high. One thing about barn doors, we can say it's great to like move when you get like your arms full of something and just elbow the barn door open, and pocket doors. I have a pocket door in my bathroom on my first floor. Right. So no one knows it's there, kind of. So there's a place for everything,
Yeah. I'll champion the door. All right, we got another kitchen coming up.
Wait,
we got to give this a star rating. Right. Well, I give this a 4-star.
It's funny. I would say, I'm not I think in terms of appliances, it's a step down, but it's a perfectly functional kitchen. I wish the refrigerator was a little less deep, especially with that island the way it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say it's a 3.5.
I'm very generous.
Me and this guy, Big Vine, or this woman, Big Vine, we're right in sync. All right, what's next? What's the next white antique looking kitchen?
Hey, you're spot on.
What a
Yeah, look at
clock.
this. Very, very symmetrical. But this is very cluttered, and I don't know if this is just because of the picture. But take away the plant and the ornaments there on the range for the picture, and it just a little too symmetrical in my opinion. Though I love symmetry, and I have a video coming out soon about symmetry and how to design using it. But yeah, I mean, very, very balanced. Big sink, looks like a workstation sink in the island, which is great. And glass cabinets are a great way to make the kitchen seem a little bit larger, though this is a large space. And you just have to be careful with the way that you decorate them, and things that are in there are, you know, kept neat and tidy if that's something that concerns you. But also, the way that they did the shelving inside there is quite unique. And oftentimes, when you have a glass door cabinet with shelving with any kind of mullion or style and rail door like these have, then you have to be careful where those shelves are placed, because they can look like they don't belong in the right place. They did it so that they're all equal, and it looks quite nice. So these are like little details that maybe you don't pick up on, but you'll notice them when you see them, and they're kind of out of sync, and they don't look like they're in the right spot. So overall, very nice space. I don't know if is it possible to tell what this kind of range is?
Let's go to the next slide. It should tell us. Yeah, that's a. Wouldn't you know it? It's a Wolf. They've got some really nice appliances here, and again, that's probably a galley workstation. I don't know exactly why you would need two faucets. Maybe one's a pure, one's a soap dispenser, perhaps. But they're big into symmetry. This is yet another Wolf dual fuel. That's got a grill and a griddle. Nice thing about Wolf, seeing that I should be talking more about appliances and less about lighting, is the infrared grill and the infrared griddle. Infrared's a direct heat, so it's a good grill. It's the same one. Like if you were to buy a $10,000 Lynx, it's a sear element basically. They've got a really nice bank of refrigeration on the left hand side there. That's integrated. Plus, they've got the Sub-Zero wine cooler. Sub-Zero's got the it's more wine storage. Don't call it a cooler because it refracts light. It's got two separate distinct temperatures. The compressor's on grommet, so it doesn't vibrate. They really design. The design is, again, 35 years ago, the idea was holding wine, and wine is very sensitive to a lot of different things. So in terms of wine preservation, it's probably the best. I love the galley. The problem with this kitchen is, drum roll please, what do you think? How is it that there's no lighting? And what is the deal with these? We're going to be looking at kitchens with sconces.
Yeah, all sconces.
And this isn't a bad thing. This isn't a bad thing on this one. On some of the other ones, it makes absolutely no sense, as you'll see. But there's no recessed lighting here. You turn that on, you think, well, maybe the 12 LED light bulbs in the center are going to light your whole kitchen, but it's going to light that part of the kitchen very bright. So if I was doing this over, I would say the lighting needs to be changed completely. I don't mind the sconces, and I don't mind the decorative pieces, but you need functional lighting. And if you want to go back to that first picture, they've got a great opportunity to light. One thing about glass that's really cool is you can light it. You can put with solid shelving, you can't light on the top, because then, as you'll see in the next few photos and other kitchens, it's not going to light anything other than the first thing. You would light it around, with, once again, my answer for everything, LED tape, which is cheap, inexpensive, and a wonderful effect, where you could just leave those two lights on and have a really nice effect at night in your kitchen. So
yeah,
no lighting.
Let's go to the third slide. This one has 4 too, I think. A note about this. So let's go to the next slide, because I seen a comment there from Jackie about the 2 sinks. So one sink with double faucets. I mean, that's a big workstation sink. Looks like those are 2 equal faucets. The other sink is in this Butler's pantry. So this has a big walk-in Butler's pantry, which is basically just a complete separate kitchen. Dishwasher. Yeah, so another sink, dishwasher. So this is quite a big space, and lots of clearance, which is great. This particular style I mentioned in a video a little bit back when I was talking about different layout styles, and I called it the galley with a twist. So it's basically a galley, part L shape, part one wall with an island, but also has a door off into somewhere else, maybe a pantry or another room. It's a very nice layout for a kitchen if you can pull it off in your home. So all right, let's go to slide number 3.
I love workstations in big islands. Those galley, and there's certainly Kohler. We have one where you've got accessories and you can really entertain or use it as a sink. God forbid. Right?
From the people that I talk to who have them, they all love them. So
yeah, my sister has
now
one.
every kitchen needs a place for your quirky little mug collection. So here you go. You got a little place in your butler's pantry. Don't tell Nick Lewis, but there.
A quirky mug collection.
Every mug has a home.
Yeah, I don't
notice. If you just notice for a quick second, though, they took the bowl of lemons and put it in this room for this picture, and the bowl of lemons used to be out on the other side of the range. So,
well, maybe they have 2 bowls of lemons.
No, because it's not there now in that other picture. So if you go back a picture, you'll see the bowl of lemons. There it is. So just creative photography, but you're not fooling us, Houzz. We're on to you.
Yeah, man.
Make the kitchen stand out. All right, let's go to the next one. I think there's 4 for this one.
If only that room had lemons.
There you go. Massive, big kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at, I imagine they have a Sub-Zero refrigerator freezer, 36-inch integrated wine cooler. A lot of people put the wine cooler in the middle. Depends.
Yeah.
You've got the Wolf dual fuel. The hood, people say they're going to hit their heads. If it's 24 inches, you shouldn't hit your head. But this is top end from an appliance standpoint, no question about it.
I see a comment there from Diane. Hi, Diane. You're close to me. You have seating. You're going to lower it. I think that's a great idea, lowering your seating down, dropping to table height, still keep the island. That comes up in a later kitchen that we're looking at if we get time for it. Yeah, but she loves this, very comfortable. So yeah, island height is really important when you're sitting there. If you want it to feel comfortable, having it at table height is good. If you have the room to extend your island to drop that down, we'll see a kitchen like that, and that can be very good. Otherwise, you want to be careful that you don't lower it and create like a lunch counter depth, seating on the back of an island or something. That can be a lot less useful for sure. Word of encouragement though for everyone who's looking at a kitchen like this, it's massive, very high end, and maybe you're thinking my kitchen's only like 12 by 11. Be encouraged, because a smaller kitchen is actually a little bit easier to design well than a large space like this, where you have so many options you don't know what to do with. When you have a smaller space and you're limited in what you can do, it actually is very helpful. So just be encouraged if you're designing a space not to think like, oh, I can't do what I want because my kitchen footprint is smaller.
Yeah.
I give this a 4.5 star, my lowest rating yet, I think.
On the best kitchen we've seen so far. Interesting. I would say from an appliance standpoint, this is obviously 5 and 5, but lighting, I mean, I didn't even see lighting in the living room. I mean, hopefully they eat during the daylight. From a lighting standpoint, this is not good. I would say from a lighting standpoint, it's 2. I'll give it 4.2 because I should be talking mostly about appliances, but lighting's a big part of this.
You're on this lighting kick, man. It's good.
People, I don't even sell it, but people get it wrong, and it's not a place you want to get it wrong.
All right. Quick question there from Jane Blanco. Hello, what's your opinion on Wolf range, 48-inch and 42 Sub-Zero? Do they last a long time?
Yeah, I think Sub-Zero is probably the best. I'm not advocating that someone needs to spend that kind of money on anything. But if you are, I think it's probably your best option. That and True. Their 48-inch range is excellent. But it really depends on how you use it. I mean, it's a great all-around range. But some companies do different things that you might find valuable depending. Blue Star will have higher output. You can buy it in 1,000 different colors. Miele's got the speed oven and a steam assist, and Thermo's got a steam oven in their 48. So it really depends on how you use it. I don't have a canned sales pitch. I'm not sponsored by anybody. So but I think from an all around standpoint, it's a great range.
Cool. Good. All right. Thanks. Yeah. If anyone has comments or whatever questions, please ask them in the chat for sure. We'll try to, if we catch them, we'll bring them up. All right. So I got a 4.5. You got a 4.2. That's not too bad. Let's go on to the next kitchen.
We're at 35 minutes. My God. Yeah. Look at this thing.
So this is my least favorite.
I looked at this and I'm like, I can't understand what they were doing, but you got to look at the last photo to perhaps understand what they were doing. They actually have some recessed lighting. I would have put in more in a big kitchen like this.
Mm-hmm. High ceilings, you got to be careful of.
Yeah, those are Hinckley lighting. Those are really nice. It will give you a nice effect through those perforations.
Yeah.
But typically, this is you and I don't see a lot of these, but living in metro areas, that's a prep area and a serving area. And you would think the prep area would be on the left and the serving area would be on the right, wouldn't you? When you look at it that way, but it's all about the view to the outside. Now, if you look at the next few photos, the next one, you can understand what they actually have more. I don't know how many people were in this family or what they entertain, but I know I've never been there. So, but what they're doing, if you take a look at on the back right hand side there, that's a grill island, and that's a whole different thing. You need more surface area for platters and everything else. So they're really, and this is good. We're teaching an island kitchen webinar in a couple of weeks. What they did right was, well, they don't need a lot of stuff because the stuff's in the kitchen. So what they're doing is using this table to serve on the island. But everything seems to be reversed here. But I kind of understand why they did it. They want the view overlooking. But still, I would have reversed that. But then you have the outside. So in a bizarre way, it kind of works.
Yeah.
Because
go back to the first picture real quick. I'll make a note on just some of the design features that I see. Yeah. One, just the symmetry on that wall is beautiful. I do like the continuous grain wood. So if you look at the island, you can see that from door to drawer front across, there's a continuous grain. And that's a real high-end finish to do it that way, but you don't see that a lot, but very beautiful way to do that. And the integration of the bar top, I like the way they did it. I'm not a fan of these type of raised bar tops at all. I don't like them, but I like the way they did this one because I think it's a little more unique than just having it raised on the end. The way they inset it made it look like it kind of almost slides into place. Is pretty cool, and having some, I like the coloring this one too, but overall, I would say this. I don't know where the fridge is in this. We don't have enough pictures, so
I would think. Well, I was going to say the fridge was going to be on the. Where is the fridge? You know what they probably did then?
Another wall somewhere.
No, you know what they did is they maybe put drawer refrigerators in
the island, maybe.
Which, I don't have enough pictures. Which is.
Yeah.
Not a lot of cubic footage when you think about it. If they put 3 in, that's 18 cubic feet. I like this kitchen. Even though nothing of what I said has anything to do with the appliances. But what I like about it is the fact that it's not white and wood. It's wood with other kind of accents. I think they accented the black pretty well. The refrigerator could be in the Butler's pantry. I don't have a problem with the fridge being in a Butler pantry because you don't really need to go to your fridge the way you need to go to your stove. I mean, it's not mission critical to get that item out at the precise time. I like it. I don't have enough to really rate it. I would say, from a stylistic, I love this kitchen. I love the fact that it's different. I'm not a fan of blonde woods.
I gave it a 3-star, man.
I'll give it I mean, I like what they did with the grill and the table there because, they can't actually, maybe they could reverse the outside stuff and the inside out. So then they could actually eat outside.
Yeah.
But seeing they opened it to the outside, what kind of glass wall is that?
That's a massive glass wall.
Massive. They spent some money on it. No question.
All right, let's go to what do you rate it? What are you rating this one? 5-star? You love it?
I would rate it as a 4. I think you should have like a refrigerator a little closer than that.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere.
But I like The lighting's okay. It's the best of what we've seen because they at least put some recessed lighting in. But that could be better too.
Yeah.
So 4.
All right, let's move on. Oh, a 4. Wow. Here we have a nice, farmhouse country looking kitchen. Very, very nice. I don't have a lot to say about this space because it's hard to tell in terms of the overall. It looks like the fridge is next to the sink, but it's hard to tell because that beam's in the way. But in terms of just looking at this, they're trying to get a picture of this symmetrical wall. So if that's the goal of that kitchen, then they did a good job. In terms of, the beams, I think are probably not needed. I don't see why you'd have to have those. I'm not an architect or a structural engineer, so maybe I don't know something. Yeah, farmhouse sink, cool. Looks like 2 dishwashers, maybe. Is that a trend you're seeing, Steve? 2 dishwashers?
Not really.
No.
I think some people do if they entertain. You can always do, a Fisher Paykel single or double drawer and put something else in the pantry. Doubles either for bigger homes or for people that entertain a lot. It's not like a trend. Like the big takeaway from this is you need 2 dishwashers. No, you don't need 2 dishwashers unless you need 2 dishwashers. It's up to you. I look at those posts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Unless you need them for structure, which we don't know.
I don't think you do.
So it's funny. Someone said the sink is too far away from the stove. That's my comment. And
no, I was going to say I think you should put a little sink in that island.
That's what I was going to say. You're not a sink guy, though. I am. I think sinks go in the island, right across from the cooking area. I think it's easy. It makes everything, the travel time in your kitchen, much less.
Sure. I mean, if you want to ruin a good island, but hey.
Well, I guess we'll agree to disagree. Unlike our governments, huh? But yeah, I happen to like it. I put one in my house.
I think this kitchen needs a second sink in the island. That I would say would help. I don't think I'd put the main sink in the island, and I have lots of reasons for that. But mostly just because if you're sitting there and there's dishes and there's splash over, it's kind of messy. But if there's a prep sink in that island, I think that would help with the distance to the main sink. So I give this kitchen a 4-star.
3. Again, we could talk about lighting again, because now you're starting to see the trend of going to sconces that make no sense. On the back wall, you look at the sconces, looking at beaming down at solid shelving, and that's as far as the light's going to go. I don't have a problem with the hood. I think it's a good. I think wood hoods. There's a comment about hoods, and we have our own private label, which is a really updated hood. But if you want a good hood to make your kitchen unique, I think doing it in wood or some kind of tile or something like that is a nice different texture and feature. So I would say the fridge is going to be in the right or left corner, one of the two.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I like the color too, though. I like that they changed up the island a little bit. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got a few more to get
You got to rate it. You got to rate it.
Oh, I rated it a 4.
3.5.
I think. Did I rate it? I don't remember.
3.5.
All right. We got a few minutes left because we're only going to go 45 minutes, Steve. So we got a lot more kitchens to go through, which means we might have to do this again.
Do people want us to do it again? We'll see.
Well, we'll know. Let us know in the chat if you want us to keep going, because we have like 5 more kitchens to go through. We don't want to keep this going too long. So let's look at this last kitchen, and then maybe we'll do a part 2. I think this is fun. It's kind of informative. This kitchen here again is what I call the galley with a twist, and that's just my take on this L shape with a door that's off, that cuts the L, which I think is very, very interesting. A lot of symmetry happening in this space. Steve, I want to know your opinion on the fridge in this one, because I'm just unsure about it with the color of the other appliances. And also, this has the table height, attached to the island, which we do see a lot of. And what I like about this is that the table height is a different way of sitting, and it's a little more comfortable than sitting on a bar. countertop height. Usually that's not very comfortable. It's challenging to make, countertop height challenge or comfortable. This is definitely comfortable and something that we see a lot of, and it breaks up the size of that island, so it's not absolutely massive. And this kitchen also has something called translational symmetry, which is the niche shelf with the arch and then the doorway arch. Very, very interesting way of just, tying those two things together. And this is an interesting space for sure. But I need your thoughts on the appliances for this one for sure.
Okay. It's hard to know except on the fridge. That's a Samsung bespoke. I get criticized a lot about Samsung, and when bespoke came out, I was a critic because they brought it out in stainless, which everybody has, Tuscan bronze, which nobody buys, black stainless steel, which is like a vinyl coating that you can scratch, and then it's unrepairable and unwarrantyable, so that you got to live with it. And I said what they should come out with is white. Now, Samsung does a great job designing appliances. Whether that ice maker in there works or not, it's another story. But if you like that white, smooth kind of finish in this environment, they do it as well as anybody. As far as they've got a nice induction stove in white. I don't know what Samsung looks like in Canada and the US. They're in transition. Let's just put it that way. But in terms of like wall ovens, what I like about what they did, and I'm not sure what the wall ovens are, is they put a different, like a lot of people just default to double ovens. Well, I would just get a double oven. What you should be doing is assessing how you're cooking, and then get a single oven, and then maybe consider steam, right? A steam oven over. I'm a big steam oven because I have one, advocate. And food just tastes better in steam because you're not baking out the flavor, which is what you're doing in any radiant oven, right? You're adding flavor and texture when you get a steam. Or you can get a speed oven and cook faster with convection and microwave. But you could do a lot of different things that people traditionally just put double ovens in, and they never use that bottom oven, So I like that a lot. I'm not a big Samsung fan, but if that's the look they're trying to achieve with that fridge, they're the best people to do it. But once again, here, and we had a little debate about this pre-show, is the lighting here needs a lot of work. Again, sconce is on closed shelving, so the light goes as far as that shelf will let it on both sides. And those pendants are directed only. So you get no ambient light coming off the top. So really what you got is a lot of light in one place and no light anywhere else.
All right.
And that's a big problem.
But this does have lights in the ceiling.
Where?
There's lights there.
Are there?
Yeah.
I don't see them.
They're there.
Are they there?
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3. Like, then it cuts off. There's one above the on the other side of the niche shelf. Yeah.
Oh. Still. Right.
But to your point about the island and those pendants, so my point of view on that is that's specifically for task purposes because one, there's a sink and clearly there's eating there. So having a shade that directs light and there's good beam spread of that light over that surface, I think is important. But it's important to think about when you're designing your kitchen and the type of light that you do want to have. So Steve mentions about like diffusing that light through the room. So you have to answer that question. Do I want a shade or a light that's going to allow that and allow surface lighting? Or do I just want more task purpose lighting if I have other ambient lighting in the room? And so it's a really good point to bring up because you do want to make sure that you have the right kind of lighting for where you need it and you're not missing it. So that's something to look for when you're looking at pendants is the purpose that you're going for, whether you want it to be directed or more ambient, or a mixture of both. This is a beautiful kitchen. I really do like it. The next
like
picture here gives us, I think there's,
I love that.
Yeah. And I am another farmhouse sink with a drip edge, I think is very cool. Just the fact that they have to me, like the white fridge and then the dark appliances, you sometimes look at that and you're like, you wonder, is it okay to do something like that? And, a kitchen like this shows you that your appliances don't all need to be matchy-matchy in order for your kitchen aesthetic to, to stand out and to work. The next slide gives a little more detail on the doors. Yeah. Looks like 2 dishwashers again, Steve. Do you think?
Yep.
Is that? Yeah.
Yep. Those are, well, I don't know. They're 2 different handles though, aren't they?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, it could be 2 dishwashers.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of the farm sink? I mean, that's been a huge.
Farm sink I like because it helps protect your doors from drip from water, and that's where you're going to get the most warranty calls about a cabinet door. And if you're in the cabinet industry, you know that there's no warranty on water damage. So it's a great way to protect your cabinet doors from any kind of drip, because it's going to drip onto that, and it gives you a chance of it not getting on the door. So aside from just the aesthetic look, like take it or leave it, it does have a purpose in terms of function, I think. And I also love this door style. This slim shaker door, I think, is beautiful.
I like it.
I think it's going to be the next trend for the next number of years. So if you're looking to have a more trendy kitchen, then this is something that maybe you could look at if that's something that you care about. So
yeah, I think Jody said one might be a trash can full height cabinet. Could be. Because I don't know why they would make even so. Why would they make the handles different? I mean, that's the beautiful part about an integrated dishwasher is you make it look like something else, and you put your own handle on it. And as far as different colors for appliances, I think that, and again, style is, everyone's got a different style based on their upbringing and what they like and don't like. I don't mind that white refrigerator. I'd mind it a lot more if it was right next to the black appliances, but it's so far away that it's almost like in a different area of the kitchen.
Yeah.
I love the arches, the lighting, the sconces. I don't like. Now I see those super small, and they can be super small now because LED is so much more powerful. But that's not a double faucet. One's a soap dispenser, by the way.
Yeah,
but,
or maybe hot water.
But I really could be hot water too, or soap, or even a cold water. I have a water purifier tap.
Right.
So
yeah, those are great.
But I really like this kitchen.
I do too. I rated this a 4.9.
I rated it as a 4.4.
Wow. Well, I'm very generous in my ratings, and maybe the next one I'll be a little harsher. But this is a very nice kitchen. We're going to leave it at this one. We have a few more to go to later on. So maybe what we'll do, Steve, we'll come back on next week or the week after, or whenever the powers that be tell us to show up, and we'll do this again. And I think this was fun. A lot of questions. There's a question here just about pot filler. So let's end with that, and what your opinion on the pot filler is. There from Jane. Is it worth it to have it or not? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends on how the farther away your sink is, I think the more inclined you are to have one. A. B, are you filling pots?
Right.
That's the other thing. Are you cooking like lobster, spaghetti, all that stuff where you need to, where if you don't feel like moving a pot to and fro, I don't think it's a bad idea. I like pot fillers, but it depends. It depends on, obviously, I don't have, again, you don't have a canned way of selling a kitchen. We don't have a canned way of selling appliances and accessories. It's really up to the individual and whether they find value.
Like, I don't mind the pot filler either, and I agree with you there. Just be careful of your cats, because I had someone who actually had a cat turn on their pot filler by accident by brushing up against it somehow. I don't know. I thought there were like safeguards against that. So who knows how that happened, and it turned it on and it flooded their kitchen. Some people complain about that. It's just another point of failure, but I don't think that's a reason enough not to have one. So I think they're good to have. Like if you need to travel too far to your sink and just right there, you got to travel there to empty it anyway. But
so if you do a lot of pots and don't have any cats, it might be a good thing for you.
You gotta be careful, man, because the cat people.
I have a cat. I got it from my daughter. The cat and her don't get along. I got stuck with the cat.
Wow.
We actually like each other. It's amazing.
But and you have a pot filler?
No, I don't.
No, see, you're safe. All right.
Because my sink, which you don't like, is right across from my range top.
Well, when I come to visit someday, I'll be the real judge of that. Everyone, thanks so much
listen,
for joining.
thanks for all the comments.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you. I wouldn't do it with anybody else, really.
Oh, I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for setting this up, your team, and you, of course. Like, this is excellent. So we're probably going to be back to do this again. We have more kitchens to talk about, and I'd love to hear your more comments and stuff. If you're watching this in the replay, please leave a comment in the chat, and one of us will try to get back to you to answer that if you have a question about anything that maybe we didn't chat about. And it's been a real pleasure. Thanks again to Steve and his team.
Thank you,
and
Mark.
Make sure you subscribe to Yale's channel if you're not already subscribed.
And to Mark's as well, because you actually learn how to design a kitchen.
Yes, and these are not for show, and I'm not trying to look like Bono. They help with eye strain.
Nice sports jacket, though.
Thank you.